Okay. Does that work? Is that good? Everyone hear me now? You got two soft speakers trying to do this. Okay, so first I'm going to pass around before I forget. These are two articles on houseplants that Ken's written and done. So the 10 most popular houseplants here, and then better humidity for healthier houseplants. So, and also if you want those, just write your name and email, and then we can send them out to you after the class. Ken will kind of get that going. Same for online. If you want those emails for these sheets, you have to let Ken know in the comments. Just give him your email and he'll send it out. It doesn't matter if you're already signed up with us. You have to sign up today to get these. So just clarifying there. So I'll pass these out just so you can see them, and then I'll pass around the sign-up sheet there. I'll start with you guys. Okay, now we'll get into it. So first I'm going to just go over plants, and then I'll do care, and then we'll do transplanting, and we'll go in an order here. So the office-friendly plants, I know that's a huge thing. Easy care, low light, because offices, light or no light. So the big ones that I pulled up that most everyone has, or offices have, are ZZs. Pull it out here. So these are great. They're also great for your air quality, so it's like twofold. Super easy plants. They require not a whole lot of light, probably mid-light, nothing direct. And then you don't have to water them, like, ever. Most people kill them because they overwater them. So maybe once a month, if that. So they're just great plants. Grow kind of slow, but if they're happy, they will take off. So just a great office house plant, anything easy. Another big one is the snake plants. Also great for air quality. It's on one of the lists, This is just a version of it. They come in like so many varieties, like 4 or 5, and we've got a lot down there. I brought this one up because it's a rare plant that we've had. You don't often see this color variegation in it. So this is just the Spirit Sansevieria. It's the rare gold one. But these, again, once a month, if that, and then leave it alone. Don't touch it. Just the more you ignore it, the better it's going to go. So those are kind of the big ones. And another one is the Dracena. So many varieties, so many different heights going on with it. But that's another one. Low light to mid-light. Barely any water once a month. And then they just kind of take off. So those are the big office plants, things that are very easy care to kind of start out with. That's a good, anything to add that you think?
No, just the only thing I would say is you will know with your ZZ plant and your Sansevieria, if you are overwatering, they tend to get mushy, and then they'll droop. So if you have any drooping or mushiness or things falling off, you're probably overwatering. They can take a very long, dry spell.
Yeah. So mushy or getting light in color tends to mean you're overwatering it, especially for those guys that I mentioned. So just keep an eye out for that. Moving on to pet friendly. So we've done in our houseplant room, we have signs, and on the signs they have paw prints. So anything with a paw print is a pet friendly plant. We try to make it easy. But I did bring up some. Oh my God. Okay, so I thought I brought some up, but I got, spider plants. Here, let me read my list. Spider plants, caltheas, even some succulents, like hawthornias, and these guys can be safe. African violets, prayer plants, money plants, rubber plants, which are these guys. These guys are safe. So things like that. We always suggest check with your vet just in case, because you don't want to be liable for that. But we do have those paw prints up there for you, because I know a lot of people want to make sure their animals are safe, because I know dogs and cats eat everything. Yes, so the ASPCA published a list. We took that list and we put them on for paw prints on the plants, so they are safe. You can always research and double check if you would like.
Just while we're on that list, it's a very extensive list. So if you're worried about outdoor plants and indoor plants, it's all on there. So if you're ever concerned, it goes through the horses and all of that stuff too. So it's a great resource for pet-friendly plants.
Yeah, and I'll also say another list that we like to use is the NASA Clean Air Study list. So I know a lot of people we want our houses to kind of promote airflow for us. And, they create better sleep, you get more air quality. So the NASA Clean Air Study, if you really want to check out their plants that they said are clean air study plants, they will be on that. And I have some lists here after class if you want to know just some, but they're the basics. So, you've got another list. The Dracinas spider plants, the palms, figs, even the golden pothos. There's so many on there that promote it. Even aloes. You think the big leafed ones would be all about the air craze, but even aloes create a lot of air quality, and even snake plants. They both do that. So just another study to look at if you really want to kind of get into that. Any other studies you've heard of?
And they just make us happy.
Right.
In our houses, the better we can.
Just a little bit cheaper than therapy, just gonna say. But anyhow, we do also have, I want to mention some rare plants that we have down in the store that we were able to get in. I mentioned one, which is that snake plant, this golden one. I also have the, let me pull these right here.
This leaf is thicker.
Yeah.
It has a thicker leaf than most of your sansevieria.
Yeah, I surprisingly enough kill snake plants just because I love for them too much, but that one kept alive and it's done great. So it seems to me that it's a little hardier, but no big deal. These are the two other rare ones. So this is just a Hoya. It's a pink splash Hoya. So it gets clusters of flowers eventually, and it is one of the faster Hoya growing plants. So all of them can be pretty slow, but this tends to be the fastest. So you get some variegation in the leaves. Let me bring it up to the class there. Variegation in leaves, and then eventually we'll get flowers in it. And then this is a Monstera, but it's a Jenny Monstera. So it's a little bit more narrow leaves than the Swiss cheese or the just the regular Monstera. So it's still split leaf, still got it, but it's more narrow and it's a little bit hardier in terms of Monstera. So I've just noticed that it doesn't get fungus as easily. They can tend to get that, but this is just kind of the harder to find one. So I think that's, oh, and this guy. So I really wanted to show you guys him. He's my favorite. So I love, it's got this pink to it. And yeah, this is a Hoya. It's got the pink, and that comes from, if you really want it, it has to have brighter light, not direct light, just bright light, and that creates the pink in it. Otherwise, it just, you get the white variegation there, and that's what it'll turn into. But if you have enough light, you'll get that pink, and it's just so pretty. So I love pink, so you have to show it off. I guess let me show the class online really quick. So that's that pink that Hoya gets. And then white if it's not enough light. But it still does beautifully. Again, Hoyas, you're not going to water more than once a month. And watering wise, you really want to, even the hardy plants that don't take a lot, you want to soak them. So if you have like a tub or anything, you want to put water in it and put them in it. You don't want to just water on top because it really doesn't get them enough. So you want to do a good heavy soaking. Especially for the guys that don't take a lot. So they just want to soak it up into the roots, not just the top. So just going to mention that. I'll speak more on watering as I progress into it. Succulents I want to mention, and this is cactus and succulents. So I showed you guys, they love narrow pots. They don't want the big guys that have a lot of room in them. They love shallow roots. And so you want to start them out small. And then I just gave you a mix. You can mix and match. They're super fun. You can even put cactus with succulents because they require the same water. The important part is you want a shallow pot. That's the big thing with succulents and cactus. Just want to mention that.
And with these, you kind of want to have a lot of bright, indirect light. If you put them in a darker location, you're going to end up with, they'll start stretching towards the light and they'll get really leggy. But if you have bright, indirect light, they'll stay more to form.
Yeah, and that's on anything that's kind of more of a hanging. Those guys, and then anything hanging. So like string of pearls and string of bananas, even pothos. You really want them to have fuller light, not so much direct, but indirect, because otherwise what they'll do is they'll start losing their inner leaves and they'll just become dangles. And that doesn't look as great, not as fun. So you just want to make sure anything hanging or even succulents get that light all the way around them, and then they'll fill out and be fuller. They'll just be happier that way. Even these guys, they'll just lose their centers and they just don't look good. Anything to add?
If you start getting into that situation where you're getting leggy, you can always do some cutting back, and that promotes that inner growth, and you'll start fluffing up in that section.
Yeah, don't be afraid to cut. It'll be fine. Like if this was just dangles, I would just cut these off and let it start again. Do not be afraid to restart on your plants if you really want them to be happy and healthy and go in there. So a couple other things that I brought up. This is kind of a new one too. It's a Peperomia. So it's like a succulent family. So again, not a lot of water, but it's got these little tiny variegated leaves, which are really cool, that we brought in. Let me show this online. So that kind of variegation there. So it's just an easy, it's hard to find houseplants that are hanging that aren't like the pothos or the ones that take a lot of water. So this is a good option if you want a hanging one that's low water and all of that. And it's just a new variety we pulled in that we were able to find.
Test.
We can hear her.
I can hear her.
Yay, we'll switch sides. Okay. I'll just mention some other plants I brought up just so you know what they are, because that's kind of like my list on plants. And then we'll go into what to use, transplant, and all of that. So other ones I brought in are these. They're kind of more generic, but they're the peace lilies. And this is a domino peace lily. So I find that the dominoes are a little bit hardier because these require water all the time. And they take a lot of light. So these just take a little bit less light and a little bit less water, in my opinion. And you get that variegation. It looks really cool. They both get that same white flower. They both look really great if you want a little color in your house.
Test.
Good. Dracinas, I've got 2 Dracinas. You got either variegation and kind of get multiple layers, or you got the big one again that I mentioned. And these have like slightly red tinges around the side. Oh, this is a Dracena as well. Slightly red tinges around the side, but again, they're both Dracinas. Both take the same light, same water and all that. Goldfish plant, it's got these really cool blossoms. They kind of look like goldfish. That's why they were named that. So they're really cool. Again, succulent kind of family. I think they're just really pretty because they get you that color. And even without the blossoms on it, the leaves have like a 2-tone color to them. So really cool to the house. Again, this is another Hoya. I'm sure a lot of people have this one. This is just the ripple Hoya. It's very common, but it's just great house plant. Let's do another. Zebra plants are great. I got a lot blooming down in the houseplant room, but they get that yellow bloom. But then the rest of the time, they just get this variegation. Moderate watering, moderate light. I would say they're not like super hardy, but they do a good job. And then the fern. Just a fern, no. This is the Kimberly Queen fern. Again, it's on the air study, and it's also pet friendly. Yeah, so pet friendly. They just do great. I mean, you can put them outside in the summer and bring them in for the winter, and they just kind of take off. Our manager with us, Amy, she bought one of these, and in 2 years, it's just like tripled in size. She can't even keep it at her home during the winter because it's just so
She
big.
sent it to Phoenix for the winter.
Yeah, she had no room. So these grow fast. They're happy outside during the summer and just bring them in for the winter. But they're great. I think that's all my... Oh, and then this is it's the ivy. This is the variegated ivy. You can also get the regular ivy. Great indoor plant if you just want something small and just that will grow and kind of go out.
And the thing that I found unique about this is the leaves are a little bit thicker than your regular ivy. It's almost waxy.
Yeah.
So it has a really pretty texture.
Yeah. So you can come feel it after the class if you want. It's just fun texture stuff. So should I ask you any questions or any questions on plants at all before I go into the other stuff? Yeah. Kimberly Queen. Yeah. It's indirect light, but it does take a lot of bright light, and watering probably once a week. It just takes quite a bit of water, but then it kind of gets into a flow. Yeah. Anyone else?
Good luck with that.
Like my sister's got a cat, and she's been noticing it's chewing on a lot. I would say more of the harder leafed things it doesn't tend to touch because it doesn't like that in its mouth. It likes the softer stuff. I don't really know. They eat everything.
My cat would chew. It wouldn't destroy it, but I always had a few chew marks on everything that I had.
Sticking out.
Yeah. She never destroyed anything. She just
Don't do a palm. I noticed the ponytail palms, my sister's cat destroyed it. It ate it completely. It's a safe plant, so it was fine. But those are the big ones, those stringy kind of fun things to play with. So yeah, but yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. How long has it been in its pot? Okay, probably does, and probably give it a good fertilization. I'll go into that in a little bit and how to do that. Yeah.
And houseplants do tend to take a step back in the wintertime, just like our plants outside do. The days are shorter. There's not enough light in our house to sustain that constant ongoing growth. So they do step back a little bit in the wintertime in order to do that. So, yeah. Yours and everybody else. So her
Great.
comment is that she had a whole bunch of houseplants outside in the summertime, and then she brought them back into the house in the winter. And she has gnats. So that's a typical thing in the wintertime. They come from all sorts of sources, but they love moist, wet soil. So if you guys are overwatering, you're also creating and keeping that problem going, because they do like that soil wet. They also like your drains in your kitchen sink. They'll hide around in there, anywhere where there's moisture. So if you let your plants dry out in between times, that helps. But she's got a couple of products here that will help you out too.
Yeah, so good transition. All right, so yeah, it happens a lot, especially in the winter, because also our houses are heated, and so they're just to create that humid environment for plants. And again, no sunlight equals just humidity and wet. So a couple of products. So this is gnat sticks. I'm sure everyone knows them. These are for the flying ones. These will get anything that's flying around your house because they're like in your face, and you're like, what is that? So these will get the flying ones. They're just yellow traps. You just stick them in your plants or wherever you find that they're getting bad. No, that's not what I want. Aha. So they're just yellow traps. You just take off the sticky, put it in your plant, and it will get them. You're going to have to redo it depending on how bad your infestation is, maybe a week or so. And eventually we'll kind of calm them down. The big product, though, let me show the online class. So that's the gnat sticks. I've been trained. And so this is the big thing. This is the thing you want, especially as you're bringing stuff in. These are granulars, stimix. Basically, because those gnats hang out in the dirt and they just kind of repopulate and keep going. So even if you have the sticks, they're not going to get them because you need to get them in the dirt. And so you just kind of, oh, cool. Don't mind me, I'm a mess. I'm Ken's daughter. So again, they're just like little gray pebbles, but I'm sorry, I'm trying not to drop them. You can come look at it. So they're just, you just put them in, you sprinkle it in, barely anything. So let's just say if I have the ZZ, I mean, that's more than enough for this plant. You can go a little more. You really can't overdo it, I would say. Yeah.
You can't overdo it.
So you just sprinkle it in, doesn't matter where. And then what you want, the important part is you water it in lightly and then let your plant dry out as much as possible before you go and water again. Because if you just go and water like next week, it'll just run out the bottom and you'll have the same issues. So the important part is keeping it in there and keeping it dry until you go and water again. And this works especially great for when you bring them in and then throughout the winter. I mean, I probably have to do, I've got a lot of houseplants, but I probably have to do it like once a month, if that, just on certain plants that tend to stay wetter because I tend to overwater and then they just creates a problem again. So just make sure it dries out. That's a big thing. Anything else, Dan?
Yeah, just kind of to reiterate that. So the wetter or the more watering, so the plants that you're going to water once a week, those are the ones you're going to reapply more often. Your ZZs, your cactus and stuff, you're not going to apply it as often as you would the other ones.
Yeah. Another one, just if you find that you got other things going on, this is indoor-outdoor spray. It's like the triple action, but it doesn't have that oil base in it, right? So no oil, so it won't like leave marks around your house. You can use it on plants. You can also use it if you have like fleas, ticks, termites. It's like for any little thing in your house, you can use it. I was reading up on it. It's really, really cool. Stay away from me. But you can spray it on your plants and kind of like that dirt area if you want just an extra boost. But this is just another option, the indoor-outdoor spray. There you go. It's not, I don't think it's organic, but you can use it on dogs and stuff. Limited, but that tells you just that it's kind of safer for things like that. Yeah. Because I know people don't want to spray a bunch in their house and then have it fumigate. So, so let me just go into some of the other products that I brought up here. So I know also this time of year, it's really popular for people to get fungus on their plants just because you're keeping it staying moist and then it's just hot. So this is our copper soap fungicide. If you see that, like if you've got spots on your plants, like black spots, or there's some weird coloring going on that's not related to watering, it's probably a fungus. We always bring it in to check. But you just kind of spray this on. You let it dry out. Don't let the sun hit your plant until it dries because you just don't want it to burn. And then it just kind of takes care of the fungal. It won't stop it, what you already have. Like if you have spots, it won't like get rid of them magically, but it will stop it from spreading to the rest of your plants and all over. So it's important just to clean up your houseplants as best you can if you have fungus, and then spray this and it will kind of control it.
And it's kind of like your outdoor yard as well. You want to kind of keep an eye on things and just kind of inspect every so often so you can stay on top of it. There's nothing worse than to see your gorgeous plant and you haven't paid attention to it in a couple of weeks and then it's infected with mealybugs or aphids or something like that, where if it's that infected, you're really going to just end up tossing your plant, because mealybugs are one of those things that are you're better off tossing the plant than trying to take care of it. They get inside any little crevice and they suck the life out of the plant. So pay attention to your plants and you'll keep them happy and healthy.
Yeah. Another huge thing for winter is a moisture meter. I say if you don't have one, get one for houseplants. It is just the biggest thing because here especially, the tops of pots tend to dry out, but the bottoms stay completely wet, but people think that they're dry, so they go to water. So it creates a lot of overwatering. So this thing is just the best, goes down a long way. Basically, it just tells you if it's wet or dry, especially down at the bottom. So I would suggest if you don't have one, get one. It's saved me multiple times. I can't tell you enough. I praise this. So just a moisture meter.
And if you're going to go one way or the other, it's so much better to let them dry out a little bit more than overwatering. We all love our plants and we tend to be nurturers, and it's just a plant starts doing this and we just automatically do that. Check it, always check it. In your fingers and the moisture meter work just great.
To fertilizing now for houseplants. So I'll mention our product. We create our root and grow. It's a low number, 221. So I know I'll get into the other products, but we love this one because we use it almost every time we water, or at least once a month. It smells at first, but not when you go and water it. Let me put that in there.
It has a very earthy smell.
Yeah.
It's like molasses to me. That's what it smells like.
Yeah.
But it is a root stimulator. It reduces stress, and it has all sorts of nice micronutrients that most houseplant foods don't have. So if you did it once a month, it'll keep your houseplants amazing because of those micronutrients that are in it. Cactuses also love this stuff. I use it on all my succulents and cactus, and I have a lot of pokey things at my house.
Yeah. Because you really don't have to worry about because sometimes you over-fertilize, you'll kill your plants because it stresses them out. But this is such low numbers, and then you dilute it, it just is super helpful for houseplants. You can also use, this is the Schultz. I'm sure everyone's heard of Schultz. You got cactus mix, or one African violet, and then you've got the regular plant food. The green, this goes on everything besides cactus and African violets. But you can use this. It's just a dropper. It's 7 drops per quart of water. Just comes like this, and you just mix in your water. Higher numbers though, so you have to be really careful about over fertilizing. You have to go longer in between fertilizings. with these guys. It still works great. We just prefer ours over this, but this is still a good option. So I'm not doubting it, just giving you the information. This, I really want to show you this. This is green glow. I'll show you on this plant. If you find, because like especially pothos or things, they just kind of get dusty on them. And so, she's gonna get my crate. So basically, this green glow is it's just to spruce it up. It just gives it a little bit more life. So you can tell like this guy's got a little bit dark because we just got him in, and then you can wipe down the leaves if you want. I just spray because I'm lazy, but we don't talk about that. So you see how that shines that up? It just gives it a really good shine. That's all it takes. You don't need a whole lot. Yeah, but it dissipates and it doesn't last forever, that smell. But see, it just kind of like shines that up really nice.
It's an alcohol base, so yeah, it's fine.
Okay, good. Like, oh!
I said that too happily, didn't I?
The only thing you don't use it on is soft leaf stuff. So like African violets have that fuzzy leaf on them. You do not spray it on them because it'll kind of suffocate them out. So just that hard, glossy thing, ZZs, peace lilies, rubber plants, things like that. They have that hard, waxy leaf to them. Ugh. Okay, Bert. So I'll kind of go into transplanting now. So this is kind of our dirt that we've got. Let me read those. So these are two of our potting soil mixes. Both work great for transplanting houseplants. This is the Happy Frog. Everyone kind of knows it. It's got a little bit, it's like back guano and all that stuff in it.
It also has the humic acid that we sell in the green bags down there. But it's a great smaller bag for those that don't want to lug this around.
You don't need that much.
It also is a great seed starter, and right now that's what we're selling as a seed starter.
Yes.
Because our seed starter, I don't know if you guys have heard all the information that's going out there, but vermiculite is very hard to come by right now, and the seed starting mix has that vermiculite in it, so they can't make it. So
yeah,
that's our new seed starter.
Yes.
Welcome to our new product.
And it still works great for seed starters because it's light enough. It's still got that light material where it's not going to like kill the seeds. It's great. So still a good product because it's going to be hard to find that other stuff. And again, our potting soil is great too. The thing with our potting soil I've noticed is it takes a little bit for it to hydrate, but once you get it hydrated, it stays wet longer. So just important to keep in mind. Great stuff, still light, still got that texture.
Yeah,
Thank you.
peat moss in it.
Yeah, peat moss in it, but yeah, and you have to hydrate the peat moss, and then once it's wet, it will stay wet. So, but still a really great option. For succulents and cactus, obviously you're definitely going to want to do cactus mix. I only have big bags right now, but I'll be getting little bags on Monday. But this has just got that really light, airy stuff, so they don't get drowned out, the succulents and cactus. So it kind of gives it just more airflow and keeps you from overwatering a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With both of these mixes, when you guys go to do your transplanting, I usually have some sort of a tub where I actually put the soil in and then wet it as I go. When you are transplanting, if you just do the dry soil into that pot, it takes a long time to get that moist. So if you wet it before you get it into the pot, you won't have to water it, so you're not drowning your plant as you're trying to transplant it. So it's always a good idea to get it wet.
Yeah. And then with transplanting, brought some pots. So what's important is I know people when things get small and in pots, they want to go bigger because they don't want to have to keep rebuying pots to put the plants into. But what's important is you just go slightly bigger than what the actual pot is. So I have like a 4-inch here. I went slightly bigger. This is probably like a 5-inch pot. And it's only slightly longer too. So you really want to go a couple inches on either end and then further down. So, because you don't want to overstimulate it. It's like, oh, I've got so much room. I don't know what to do. So it freaks out and it dies on you. So you only want to go slightly bigger. So even like this Dracaena here, You think it would go in a bigger pot, which it could probably go in a little bit bigger pot, but this is probably a good size for it. It will go at least 2 years in this pot before you even have to think about doing it again. So slightly bigger is fine. You get a couple years out of it, and then you want to go even up in size. So that kind of helps. Even the ZZ here, this is a good size for that ZZ, just because ZZs like to stay a little bit smaller, just because they're a little bit more succulent-like. So even this size is good. I know you see the pot here, but this is when it's planted. It'll be a good size for it. Anything to add?
No, you're good.
Probably more shallowish.
So her question, just for everybody at home that didn't hear her, is do ZZs like the longer, more tall pots than the shallower base? And ZZs could do either or. They're not a true succulent where they need that shallow base.
Yeah, so like this one, I mean, it's only slightly longer than it is, but that's still a good size for it. You could go a little bit deeper, but honestly, that's like good enough for these. And last thing of products that I brought up before we kind of go into questions is Orchid Bark. Really, this is kind of used more for orchids because you just plant orchids right into Orchid Bark or soil, but we prefer bark.
Yeah, and this is for the and I can't pronounce the name, but the big fat leaf orchids that most of us have. If you have the soft leaf orchids that have the leaves that just kind of hold over, you'll use the orchid mix, and it's actually a soil mix. But most orchids go straight into the bark because when they're growing in the wild, they're attached to trees in the wild.
You got those air roots going on, so you just want to get that airflow in there. I wouldn't suggest using this as decoration on top of your plants, just because it can hold mold in it. If it stays too wet, it'll just keep that, and then fungus and things will come into it. So rather use like anything else, like rocks or anything like that. Which reminds me, for transplanting, if you really want drainage, I would add in some rocks in the bottom. You really don't have to here, but because their soils are just so good with our potting soils, but you can do a fine layer of rocks if you really want to.
I would say if any of you tend to overwater, the layer of rocks on the bottom would be good for you.
No big deal, no big deal.
So her question is about orchids and how often should you water an orchid? And there's a lot of theories about this, and I say work whatever works for you, but I have found I actually take my orchid to the sink and just water the heck out of it, just like everything else. I make sure every time I water thoroughly. So I'm not guessing on how wet or dry it is. If you're going to water, do it. If you just do little bits of water, you tend to get that alkaline layer up top there because of our salts in our water system. And you'll tend to get those brown edged leaves. So if you're going to water thoroughly all the way through, or like Kenzie mentioned earlier, get tubs and just let them soak it up from the bottom. And that always helps your plants. Back to your question. I almost forgot what it was. Water it thoroughly. I've heard if you do ice cubes, that works too, but I just want to know that the plant's wet for the week. You know, he's good to go.
Is that true for the African violets also? Love water from the bottom?
Her question was on our African violets. Do you want to answer that? Or?
Yeah. So those guys are really important that you water from the bottom because they have that fuzzy leaf, so they'll like to have that leaf wet. So it's even more important for those guys to be watered from the bottom.
And it's going to depend on your house. I mean, we can stand up here and say, yep, you're going to water it once a week.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily true. Right now, I'm watering my African violets about every 10 to 14 days. They're just not drying out right now. So your plants, you'll know when you need to water. So you don't have to do it all on one day. I mean, it might be more maintenance for you, but not everything is going to hit that actual pattern for you. So you might water a couple of plants this day and a couple that way.
So when you water your violets, how do you dry before you start?
Yes, I do. I use my water meter all the time, especially those things that have a little bit thicker root system, because I want to know what's happening at the bottom of that pot, because your roots are down there. You know, unless you're just newly planted, your roots are at the bottom of that pot. So if your top of the soil is wet, you know that bottom is wet. And like I said, this time of year, things don't dry out like they do.
Yeah, and well, it's on my mind. So we're transplanting. If you really want to transplant something, I would suggest doing it either kind of in March before things start waking up, but they're still kind of warm, or right before winter. Because during winter, as she said, nothing grows, so like things go into a little bit more shock when you transplant because they're like, I didn't want to grow, I was fine. So you want to wait till we get a little bit more warm before you start transplanting things.
Yeah, and if you have any plants that are blooming, don't transplant them until they're done, or they're just going to drop. So all those beautiful Christmas cactuses that we all took home last month, we probably all transplanted them, and then they just kind of dropped off, and now they're just sitting there. But they'll come back for you, and usually thanks Easter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you want to transplant stuff, you really want to get new dirt to go in it, because you just don't want to bring anything over that the old plant might have had. Basically, what you do is you want to keep a little bit around the roots, that old dirt, and then that way, when you transplant it, it's not super shocked in that new dirt. It's got some mold to it, but you definitely want new dirt. So you just don't know what's been in it, and you just want something fresh. Definitely true.
And when you're transplanting it, you treat it just like any other plant that you take home. You know, you're still going to need to massage those roots because they have been stuck in a pot for so long. Massage them up. Houseplants, I always use the root and grow just like everything else outside. I love the product. So don't hesitate to use that indoors and outdoors.
Okay. I'll reiterate what she's saying. Could be several things. So she's got a corn plant and it's got some brown spots on it. That could be so many things, to be honest. And the tips. So the tips, Dracinas happen a lot with that. They get that tips. They just brown out there. Tends to be kind of underwatering because the water doesn't get all the way down to the tips of the plant. Also keep track, since right now, that it's not staying too cold if it's near a window or anything, because that can also create some brown spots on it. But most likely it's probably underwater. You just need a little bit more.
And it also could be that alkaline buildup too. So if you have a lot of brown tips, if you're shallow water, it could be that too.
More medium light. They don't like a whole lot of bright light, but more medium is good for them. Question? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's hard.
So her question is that she has a lucky bamboo that is just sitting in water. Typically, that's the way they grow. I would rinse whatever container out and just put some fresh water in there. Something like that, I'd probably use distilled and maybe put a little bit of just a drop of some sort of fertilizer in there just to give it some nutrients for it, because just sitting in water, there's a little bit of minerals in our water, but feeding it would be better.
Yeah, you'll see that a lot with jades too. With our water that we have, it just creates that buildup of salt. So in jades, you'll see like white spots sometimes or brown, and you'll just see that. So you gotta be really careful about using that stuff. I think she had her hand up first, and I'll give it to you. We don't have any. Mm-hmm. Humidity. How do you create that?
So her question was how to create humidity in your home.
Humidifier is a big one. It's just the easiest option without having to do a bunch of little tricks here and there. Otherwise, spray or
Yeah, a humidifier is actually healthy for you and your plants. You can also in your saucers that you have at home, you can put a layer of gravel, decorative rock on the bottom, and fill that up with water, just so the plant doesn't sit in that water. But that'll create humidity for your plant as well. Misting is always a good thing.
right. Yep.
You'll always have a guest in the shower, won't you?
Yeah, they're just hard here. Along with the tropical plants, they dry out on top, but they're wet on the bottom. And I found, yeah, and you just need some sort of humidity source. I also like to, and this is gonna sound crazy, on those more tropical plants. This is just an example, like especially those anthuriums, things like that. I like to shake them because, like in the wild, they get blown by wind and stuff like that. It makes them sturdier and stronger. So especially you have like more. More plants that are less hardy, their word. I just shake them a little bit. I just give them a little shake and humidity, and it kind of strengthens them up, so you don't have to keep propping them up and things like that. That's just a little trick for things like that. But well, yeah, and sing to those nicely, sweet, yeah.
I have reverse osmosis at my sink. I don't water it, but that's reverse osmosis versus tap water.
Her question was, can you do reverse osmosis? Actually, it just purifies it. So it's just like pouring distilled water. So yeah, actually your houseplants would love that because it's pure. It doesn't have the salt in it that's going to cause issues. And that type of thing. So just make sure you fertilize every once in a while because there's no minerals whatsoever in that water that you're putting on it. So they need help. Yeah.
Yeah.
So her question was how to propagate from cuttings, and it kind of varies from plant to plant. My best advice is try it. Most of them will propagate with water. We all like cheap, easy plants, and some of it is we want to keep our mom's Christmas cactus, or we want to pass it down. Pothos are amazing plants to propagate. You can do it very, very easily in a little glass of water. Your succulents are a little bit different. They need to dry out and can actually go into soil. I'm not huge on propagation. I've tried it a couple of times, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It seems like more leafier stuff works well in water than straight into soil. If you're going straight into soil, the rooting powder that's down at the on the side shelf works really well to get those roots going. So yeah.
And you want to make sure, just like especially on most plants, that you find a node. I'm sure most of you know, but you find a node and you want to pinch it there. You don't want to just pinch it wherever because they'll grow out of the nodes that you pop off from. So pothos are easiest ones because you can just see them with nodes. But other things, you just try and find that break in the plant, and then you'll put that in water or plant it. You want to go like for a poth. I don't want to break it off. I usually go like a little bit. I'm trying to find one. Yeah, like right there. So that's got a node.
So
pop it off right.
Yeah. So you would cut it right there.
Top.
Yeah, on the bottom side.
Because then it'll create a new one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's just but it creates its own through that. Yeah. There you go.
So that node is going to be your next branch and next leaf that comes.
You see that? So that's the node. You want to cut it right on before that. So, I don't know if they can see that online, but yeah. Like I have a Hoya. I'm trying it out in water. It's very slow growing, but it's still alive. So we're seeing how it goes. But just test it out. that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't think they would.
So she said the Azizi plant is good to do in water. So we learned something new today. And well, spider plants you could throw on the ground and they'd pop up. Even here in Prescott. Any other questions, you guys? All right.
Yeah,
All right.
go buy some plants. I don't want to have to bring these back down.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Kenzie did get a whole bunch of, we've had 2 trucks of houseplants this week. So there's all sorts of brand new stuff in there. So don't hesitate to go down. We'll all be at the registers, so we'll get you all checked out as we can. So thank you again for coming, and have a great day.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, check it out.